Yes, at Flinders University, if you're joining us from interstate, we are located about 20 minutes south of the city along the coast on a beautiful campus. So the image you can see now on your screen is of our student hub. So that's a communal space for our students to be able to access all their student spaces. There's also the library attached to that as well. And both of those are open 24/7 to all of our students. So if you prefer to study at night and you need to work in part-time work and other commitments, you have access to the facilities to be able to study late. But we are in the top 2% of universities, and the student satisfaction rates are the highest in South Australia as of last year's numbers. So we're very proud of that. But I will pass over to Kristen to speak about the midwifery program and our facilities at our midwifery suites, and then we'll go through some application information as well. So thanks, Kristen.
No problem. Thank you, Chelsea. I'll just scroll down because there's fantastic. Welcome everybody. I'm Kristen, I'm the course coordinator for the midwifery programs, and it's an absolute delight to be able to talk to you about our midwifery programs here at Flinders University, which are absolutely fantastic. And next year we're actually starting a new curriculum, which we're really excited about, which builds on the fantastic things that we already have in our program and expands on them, and will basically ensure that you're going to have a fantastic experience if you're coming to the program. So firstly, it's really important to understand what midwifery is all about, because a lot of people who come into or consider coming into midwifery don't always know that it's really very woman-centred rather than baby-focused. Yes, we absolutely do care for babies, and we really focus on assisting women to be able to care for their babies, as new mums, but what midwifery really focuses on is being with woman, and the term midwife actually means with woman. And so the midwife is the most appropriate and cost-effective type of healthcare provider to be assigned on the care of normal pregnancy and birth and the postnatal period, and including risk assessment and the recognition of complications. And so that's from the WHO, which is the World Health Organization. And midwives around the world have an play an integral role in healthcare provision for women and babies, and is absolutely a fantastic profession to be part of. Oops. No, next slide, please. Thanks. So what do midwives do? Midwives work in partnership with the woman, with women, to give the necessary support, care and advice during pregnancy, labour and the postpartum period. And so what's one of the fantastic things about midwifery is that we're very autonomous in what we do in many parts of Australia and globally. We do work in partnership with other medical professions, but our focus is very much on working with women, partnering with them and caring for them and their families and communities, right from the beginning of their pregnancy through the labour and birth, where it could be that we're often the person who, for want of a better word, catches the baby, and then we care for the woman through those first 6 weeks after the baby's born. And so that's a fantastic model of care if you can work in that midwifery model, where you actually work with the same midwife and woman throughout that entire maternity journey. Not all midwifery is like that, but that's one of the best models that we have available to women, and is certainly very satisfying as a midwife to be part of that. So as a midwife, there's lots of things that you'll need to be able to do, and of course during your studies we assist you to learn all of these skills. So as a midwife, you'll need to be able to partner with and advocate for women. And what we mean by advocacy is standing up for women and their rights. And one of the strengths of midwifery is that our focus is very much on protecting normal pregnancy and childbirth and the postpartum period. And so sometimes when a doctor might be considering interventions, we'll negotiate with them and say, okay, can we have a little bit longer in this labour because we think that things are going to go really well, and the woman doesn't want to actually have interference at this stage. And so that's what advocacy means, that we stand up for them. Be willing to care for women and their families with different needs. And midwives care for women of all different ages, of cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, and so that's a fantastic part of our job, is to be able to provide care for women from so many different diverse backgrounds. As a midwife, you have to have excellent communication skills, and we are caring for women in a very vulnerable time of their life, but also a very exciting part of their life. And so we need to be making sure that we communicate really well and are good educators, are there for women in the way that they need us to be. And sometimes that means being really quiet in a labour and birthing room, or it might mean being quite chatty. It just depends on what the woman needs from you at that time. We also need to be able to communicate really well with other health professionals so that they actually have a good understanding about what a woman needs. Midwives need to be able to think critically and quickly, and sometimes things can change quite quickly in a labour and birth in particular, where everything's lovely and quiet and everything's progressing beautifully, and sometimes things happen where complications occur and you need to be able to respond really quickly and change into more of an emergency mode. And so the majority of our care is all focused on normal childbirth, but we do need to be able to assess and to respond quickly to complications and emergencies. Midwives need to have really good time management skills. It's a very busy profession, but that's something that we will definitely teach you about. And be prepared to take responsibility for decisions. As I said before, midwives are very autonomous in the care and are often making decisions with the woman about her care and then conveying those to other health professionals. We need to be able to know why we're making decisions and if they're the best ones, and are they based on research evidence as well, and be willing to back our decisions up. I need to be able to work in a team with midwives, doctors and other health professionals, and we actually have workshops throughout our program where you might be undertaking workshops with other medical students, for instance, which is a fantastic new initiative in the last year or two. And be unafraid to ask questions. So as a student, be unafraid to ask questions. We're always happy to answer them or ask you to consider what do you think the answer might be, and then we'll make sure that you get the right one if you haven't quite got it right initially. But as a midwife, even with 20 or 30 years experience, we still need to be able to be unafraid to ask questions and ask for clarification. Thanks. So why study midwifery at Flinders University? We have a fantastic course and we have a great team of midwifery academics and clinicians who support you through your program. Our program reflects the midwifery philosophy of woman-centred midwifery practice, which is an absolute key to any good midwifery program. Our college is committed to excellence in midwifery education, practice and research. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves of is that our midwifery degree is constantly changing and evolving in response to both student feedback and our partner in industry's feedback as well. And so with our new program that's coming into being next year, a lot of that has been based on what students are telling us, what our midwives in the community hospitals are telling us as well. Is this what we need to change? Our lecturers are at the forefront of Australian midwifery innovation and development and maintain strong partnerships with our community and healthcare partners. And this evening I'm actually going to one of the hospitals here in Adelaide to provide some education with our midwifery counterparts, our midwifery clinicians, to talk to them about how best to support midwifery students and to provide feedback so that it's a really valuable learning tool for them. And so we do those really regularly, and we actually do that in conjunction with the other university in South Australia who offers midwifery, which is UniSA. So we're doing that together to make sure that the midwives who support our students are also well supported in doing so. The university provides excellent support services for students, including the Student Learning Centre, Health Counselling and Disability Services, and the International Student Support Unit. And midwifery is actually based at the Sturt campus, which is just down the hill from the main campus where the student hub is. But we have some excellent services down there as well, and it's a really nice place to study. It's a very it's just a really nice campus and some excellent resources that we have down there as well. This is actually one of our spaces, and so one of the the things that we have in terms of resources is our clinical laboratory services. And so this is our main simulation suite, and you can see how well it's set up. In the bed is actually Victoria Spice, who can speak, and she can have a baby. You can take her blood pressure and her pulse. You can listen to the fetal heart rate. And behind her on the resuscitator is baby Harper Spice, who's her daughter. And so we can do all sorts of different things with these high technology mannequins. And the whole space is actually set up in a way that reflects what you would see in a hospital. So all of the equipment that we have is exactly what you would see in our tertiary hospitals. All of the documentation, all of the instruments that we use, all the medications, everything is set up so that when you're learning here, you can feel confident and comfortable in an environment that actually reflects what things will be like when you go out on clinical placement. So it's actually really fantastic. So there are 2 entry pathways into the program. So we have the Bachelor of Midwifery for a pre-registration pathway, which is for anybody who is not a registered nurse. So if you're coming from school or you're a mature age entry student who's wanting to come into the program, it's a 3-year program. And so anyone who's an enrolled nurse also comes into this pathway as well. We also have the Bachelor of Midwifery for registered nurses, and so if you're a registered nurse, please apply for this pathway. And please note on the SATAT website that if you are going into the registered nurse entry, you actually have to go into the postgraduate portal. Even though it's an undergraduate degree, you've already done a degree, so it's in the postgraduate portal. Please note that when you apply for these programs that you can't defer your offer if you receive it. So the entry pathways into the Bachelor of Midwifery. So for the pre-registration pathway, which is 3 years full-time study or 6 years part-time, all can be done over 4 or 5 years, depending on how you configure your study plan, and we help you to figure out what that will look like. You can either come via secondary school, and the selection rank, which is an adjusted ATAR for 2018, was 91.5. Now just please be aware that it changes every year, and so if you're not thinking that you're going to meet that, please apply anyway, because it depends who actually applies and what their scores are. And so I would always recommend that you actually do just apply. You can also come in as a mature entry pathway through the STAT test, foundation course, advanced diploma, tertiary transfer, or by special entry through the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander entry scheme. As a registered nurse, which is a 2-year full-time study or 4 years part-time, and this is actually new, and I'll explain that in a little bit. At the moment it has been an 18-month program. We're expanding it to a 2-year program based on feedback from our students. But this is for registered nurses who you must have current registration in Australia, and is based on your grade point average only. The GPA this year is about 5.1, and that was for a part-time offer. It's a bit higher for a full-time offer because we only make offers depending on how many clinical placements we have available to us. But because of those restrictions, we don't want to not make offers for other students who might like to study part-time. In terms of someone who hasn't got a grade point average because you've gone through a hospital training program for your nursing, then please provide us with some more information about your professional background, because it's based on that rather than a GPA. So what does the course cover? Well, the course obviously revolves around midwifery practice and all that that means. But we teach you different theory and skills related to midwifery knowledge. We talk about a lot about the history of midwifery. Midwifery is very much based on storytelling and passing down that experience through stories, and so we still value that. But obviously we also bring in lots of theory. We teach you lots of skills and spend a lot of time in our clinical labs, much more so than we ever have in the past. We're continuing to build that, which is great. We look at midwifery as primary healthcare, which is one of the foundational bases for this profession. Maternal and infant nutrition, one of the strengths of our program is we have an entire subject related to that. so that when you graduate you feel very confident about ensuring that mothers and babies are nutritionally healthy, but also that you have a really good understanding about how to support women to breastfeed when their baby's born. We have topics that are topics specific to psychology and mental health, others related to research and evidence-based practice, law, ethics and professional practice. We have a whole topic focusing on Aboriginal health and cultural safety. We have a couple of topics that are focused on pharmacology and clinical sciences. We have also other topics that are focused very much on anatomy and physiology, so that you really understand what's happening in terms of maternity care and what's happening in pregnancy and the processes of birth. Sociology and population health is included in our program, as well as critical thinking and clinical reasoning. By the end of your program, we're really wanting you to have very strong skills about being able to think about why you're doing things. We don't just want to teach you a whole bunch of theories and facts so that you can regurgitate them and go, okay, I know this. We want you to be thinking about, what does this mean for your clinical practice? Why are you learning this? Why is this important to you being a midwife? Why are you, what are you basing your decisions on? Why are you doing things the way that you're doing them? And this is really important to be focusing on that as a skills development, because when you're a midwife, you need to be thinking through all the consequences of the decisions that you're making and making the best ones. So you'll be really good critical thinkers and have great clinical reasoning skills when you graduate. A large component of the program is professional experience placement, or work integrated learning. And so one of the things that you do need to be very aware of coming into this program, and it is a big commitment that you're going to have to make to be going out onto placement. It's an absolutely fantastic component of the program, but it does mean there are different things that you need to consider in terms of flexibility of study, the costs that it involves, because you have to often park in different hospitals, take time off of work to attend shift work. So something that you do need to be really aware of. But the professional experience placements are fantastic, and we give you a lot of opportunities to learn in hospitals or community settings. So throughout your program, your block placements will be between 1 and 6 weeks in length. From second year, they're generally about 6 weeks, but they might be split up over the semester. Shifts are scheduled over a 24-hour, 7-day roster and include public holidays, and from second year include night duty as well. And you need to be available to undertake the rosters that we provide you. Placements occur at various times of the year and not just in semester weeks, and we tend to allocate students across every week potentially, except for Christmas and New Year. We share our rosters with UniSA, and we actually work very closely with them to make sure it's fairly equitable throughout the year. You'll undertake placements in public and private hospitals and community settings, and in metropolitan and rural areas as well. And all students need to be available to be able to undertake at least a 2-week placement in a rural area if asked to. In addition to the block placements that we have for you, you'll also undertake continuity of care experiences. And what that means is that you'll follow up to 15 women throughout their entire maternity journey, providing them with support and hands-on care during their antenatal visits, during the labour and birth, for which you'll be on call and sometimes get called out at 2 o'clock in the morning to attend birth, and then for the postnatal visits up to 6 weeks after the birth. Each woman or each continuity of care experience requires a commitment of about 25 to 30 hours, and you must be able to attend at least 4 antenatal visits, and you must be able to be on call for those births. And that's something else to consider when thinking about applying for this course. But it is such a valuable experience. Students and women love these continuity of care experiences because you learn so much about midwifery from that journey with the woman. So Tiffany said, as a student, I found continuity of care experiences the most fulfilling and wonderful part of the course, and was privileged to follow through some women into pregnancy. So someone at the beginning of her course and someone later on who asked her to be a student again, which is always lovely. Oops. Oh, sorry. So for the pre-registration program, the clinical placements are spread out over the entire 3 years. In your first semester, you'll undertake 1 week of placement or 5 days in either a postnatal or antenatal ward. And then in semester 2, there'll be 10 days of placement or 2 weeks, which will either be in a postnatal or antenatal ward or maybe domiciliary home visits. And in addition to this, you'll undertake 5 continuity of care experiences. In second year, increases the amount that you undertake increases over the year. So you'll be doing 30 days or 6 weeks of placement in semester 1, which focuses very much on normal care of the woman in labour, in antenatal, in labour and postnatal care. And you might be allocated placements in any of those areas, but you'll definitely have a placement in labour and birthing or midwifery group practice, which is a continuity of care midwifery model. In semester 2, you'll do another 30 days or 6 weeks of placement and undertaking care that focuses on complexities in pregnancy or labour and birth. And so undertaking placements again in high-risk antenatal wards, labour and birthing, and potentially special care nursery. You also undertake another 5 continuity of care experiences. In third year, you'll undertake 40 days or 8 weeks of placement. 2 weeks of those will be in special care nursery and 6 weeks will be in other maternity areas, again focusing a lot on women's health in that particular semester, but working across all different areas. And in your final semester is another 6 weeks of placement in labour and birthing and special care nursery, and undertaking again another 5 continuity of care experiences. So generally 5 continuity of care experiences each year. That's the minimum number. You can do more if you want to. For the Bachelor of Midwifery RN entry program, it's a 2-year program, and essentially you do the same clinical topics that the pre-registration students undertake over their 2nd and 3rd years. So again, 36 weeks in the first semester of your first year, 6 weeks in second semester, 5 continuity of care experiences, and 3rd year it's the same, 40 days in across different areas in semester 1, and then 6 weeks or 30 days in semester 2. You'll do 10 continuity of care experiences, 5 in each semester. Just please be aware that these particular numbers are actually based or are contingent on our final accreditation of this new program. So this is what we've submitted and what is likely to be approved. So just be aware of that, please. Oops. Sorry guys. Part of the requirements for your degree are not only completing the theoretical components and the placement components, but also achieving a certain number of skills. And this is a requirement for any program in Australia for midwifery. And these skills include, but aren't limited to, 30 normal vaginal births, again for when you actually catch the baby, providing care for 40 women who are experiencing complexities, and that includes care of 20 women experiencing a complex birth, and that might be a caesarean section, 100 antenatal visits, 100 postnatal visits, neonatal care, and your continuity of care experiences. There's a lot more than that, but it gives you an idea that you actually do have certain things that you need to prove that you have achieved. And we have a portfolio that you complete to provide evidence for achieving all of these different skills. So where will you work? Well, when you finish your program, you're eligible to apply to AHPRA to register with the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Australia as a registered midwife. And as a midwife, you can work in public, private, community hospitals, rural settings, in a midwifery group practice, in independent practice. For those, we tend to suggest that you have some experience after you graduate because you're very autonomous in those models. You could be a teacher, a clinical facilitator later on in your career, or you could go into management, public health and research. There's lots of opportunities for midwives. a lot of people sort of think, oh, I have to do a graduate year. It's actually not necessary. The SA Health and other health units around Australia do offer graduate years. Here in South Australia, it's a transition to professional practice program, and that's a year-long contract where you get some additional support through your first year. But you actually don't need to do something like that. You're a registered midwife, you can apply for jobs straight away. The starting salary for 2017, and it's the same one at the moment, is $61,421 full-time, and you do get penalties for shift work. So we've already talked a little bit about entry requirements, so you can have a look at the website to get some more information about that in terms of the selection rank. There are no prerequisite topics that you need to have completed in school, and you can actually have a look at the information about uni test, which is available to improve your selection rank. That actually increases potentially your ATAR. If you don't do terribly well in the uni test, it's okay. It's not going to reduce your ATAR at all. One thing that a lot of potential students ask us is, well, what do I do if I don't get in? What we do normally suggest is that if you also put down something like Bachelor of Nursing pre-registration as your second preference, and here at Flinders University, which has a lower selection rank, it actually does have a guaranteed selection rank of 75. One of the important things to think about is that sometimes people can be a nurse and a midwife. I am. That's what we needed to do back in the olden days. But if you do go into the Bachelor of Nursing, you can choose to continue that and then do your midwifery 2-year program afterwards. Or after your first year of study in nursing, if you achieve a grade point average of 6, which is a distinction average, you can automatically transfer into the midwifery program and start then. You might get a little bit of credit for that year of study, but you'll certainly develop some skills that are handy to have. And so that's something to be thinking about in your application process. After you finish your program, you can have access to a whole range of different additional postgraduate studies. So you can undertake an honours program in midwifery which focuses on research skills development, a graduate certificate in midwifery, a graduate diploma or a Masters of Midwifery, which can either be in coursework or in research if that's what you're wanting to do, and then you can go on and do a PhD program if you would also like to do that. And so we have lots of support available throughout your program to give you some information about how well to do and what might be your options afterwards. So applicants, you can apply through SATAC, and the website's available then. Chelsea, did you want to talk about this?
Sure. So, yeah, you've still got a couple of weeks left to apply if you haven't submitted an application already. Just ensure you submit that by the 28th of September, just to avoid SATAC's late fees. You can always change your preferences and rearrange them as many times as you like after that date, right up until the 3rd of January 2019. So don't stress too much about that, just get something in by the 28th of September. Because midwifery is a very competitive course, you definitely need to ensure that is somewhere within your 6 preferences by the 3rd of December, which is the equal consideration deadline. You may see some communications from SATAC this year about an early offer round on the 20th of December. Midwifery most likely will not be included in this round, so don't panic if you're not made an offer to midwifery in this round. Essentially, that round will just be for courses that have guaranteed entry selection ranks, and midwifery doesn't. So hang tight until Tuesday the 15th of January, and the offers will be rolled out throughout the day. So if a friend has received an offer at 9 a.m. and you still haven't received anything, wait until about say 4 or 4:30 that day. And if you're still really worried, you can give us a call if you like, and we can just check that everything's okay with your application, and we'll help you on from there as much as we can. in saying that, this is our contact number, so if you would like to take a screenshot or a photo of the screen, that comes directly to my office. So if you would like any assistance with how to order your preferences or any application assistance, you can give us a call there. It's also important to know, if you're a current Year 12 student, that your adjustment factors, or aka bonus points, will not be on your score when you get your results on the 18th of December. If you like, call us on that phone number and we will readjust your score with any bonus points for you. So you'll know what your adjusted score is. It's really quick for us to work it out for you. Just give us a buzz on that phone number and we'll do the calculations for you. We also have some upcoming webinars as well if you're interested in some other assistance with your applications and things. We do have a Year 12 results webinar coming up in December, and other webinars such as scholarships and uni life and things like that. So all things to help you with your transition. I will be happy to hang around for a few minutes if you've got any questions. Please feel free to use the chat function if you'd like to send any questions to anyone, or if you would like to send them privately, you can do that too. But thank you so much, Kristen, for coming today and sharing your time and your knowledge on the midwifery course. I hope everyone found it useful, and if you would like to re-watch the webinar back at a later date, the webinar will be uploaded to our website that's on the screen now, flinders.edu.au/webinars, and that will be up shortly. So if you've got any questions, please let us know. I'll turn the camera and the audio off, but I'll still hang around for a few minutes in case anyone has any personal questions they'd like to ask. So thank you very much for joining us, and all the best for the rest of the year. We hope to see you at Flinders next year.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.